Welcome to the Wild Contemplations podcast with Kristen and Cori. I am Kristen, one of the hosts. I am a 1-3 emotional projector, Sag Sun, Libra Moon, Pisces Rising. We're so happy you're here, Cori. Before you take a sip of whatever that is, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. I'm Cori. I am a 4-6 sacral manifesting generator, Cancer Sun, Virgo Moon, Virgo Rising. And yeah, we're super happy to be here together and to be in space with all of you listening. Um, we are on an adventure around the wheel, moving through all 64 of the gene keys, weaving in human design, astrology, as we contemplate these keys while they're illuminated by the sun and grounded by the earth. And it's been a fun adventure. We've just moved into Gemini season. So, our last episode, we were contemplating the first set of gates that fully Gemini and Sagittarius, the sun in 20 and the earth in 34. So we'll probably do a little check-in with those after we take a few breaths together. And then we will be contemplating the sun in 16 and the earth in 9 today. So if it feels good to just soften the gaze or close the eyes, maybe bring a hand to the body, the belly, the heart. And we'll just take 3 breaths together. All right, so we'll do a little check-in, see what's been coming up. Just as a refresher, last week we were contemplating the sun in 20 with the frequency bands of superficiality, self-assurance, and presence, and the earth in 34 with the frequency bands of force, strength, and majesty.
Mhm. And remind us, Cori, are we still in that transit or have we moved on?
No, we are in the transit that we'll be contemplating today. So the sun is in the sixth line of the 16. So we've gone through that transit pretty much all the way. It'll probably be moving out later today. So the full moon that we just had 2 days ago was in the 9. So I'll share those frequency bands like we did last week since we're kind of coming in at the end of the energy because our check-in will probably include both. So
Mm.
the 16 frequency bands are indifference, versatility, and mastery. And the frequency bands for the 9 are inertia, determination, and invincibility. And so we would have had the full moon in this 9. Um, so I'm sure some stuff will come up around that.
All right. So it's funny, I grabbed I think this is called sphalerite or something like that, but it's in the shape of a moon. So, and it has like markings and stuff that could be a moon. So, anyways, um, so this weekend I was pretty much offline all weekend. I was in the gardens working on a huge project in our one garden and also had a break for like a show binging day on Saturday. So I did that as well. We watched Off Campus, which is like it's on Prime and it's a It's a love story, so it's cute. It's like college kids, which I love, young love stories. So it was fun. It was really nice to do that on Saturday. So then moving into Monday, I feel like today I had a slow start to my morning and now I'm in like get shit done mode. So I'm totally organizing myself and just preparing for the week and um yeah, checking off a lot of boxes and feeling good. I feel good. I don't feel a lot of pressure right now. Sometimes when I come out of these spaces of moving really slow and being present and being offline, I'll feel like I have work to do. I have pressure. And actually yesterday I will say I intended on working, but the day just got away from me being outside in the garden. And so it just happened, I just allowed it to happen. And I guess I really do feel present and just attending to what's in front of me right now, which is kind of nice, even though it's June 1st and I have my business menu to get out for June 1st, and I haven't even started that yet, or my process of reflecting on May, which all that needs to be done before I even come into June, because I always reflect on the month prior to bring in what wants to come forth in the following month, so this month in my business, and I haven't done that yet. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay. So that's where I'm at. How about you?
Yeah, I love that. It's okay. I feel like that is the energy right now of like just wherever we're at is okay. Um, I've also been the weekend, well, since the last time we met, I was pulled very much into the present moment. There were different things that I was doing for my grandma's memorial service, and a big part of it was I was singing for the first time in like over a decade in public like that. And I was also doing it a cappella, so like just my voice. Um, and it really, yeah, it really just pulled me into like um presence and surrender and like a deep trust in myself and in my voice. And again, we're having this sun transit the throat center in the human design body graph. So um it's just felt like the throat and the voice has been such a theme for me the last few weeks. And I was kind of moving through this like physical head, neck, chest thing that was making my voice kind of come in and out. And then I feel like this uh, sharing of it in public, like kind of moved the energy. And now, like, I don't feel any of that really anymore, which is kind of wild. Um, and it's interesting. I don't have the 16 and 9 like activated in my human design chart, but it's in my astrological chart. It's my midheaven, the 16, and my IC, the 9. So it's very connected to like, you know, my public facing expression and also like my home life and my upbringing. And so obviously like being with family and like seeing, yeah, just being together in that space of like seeing family from when I was younger, going through pictures, like bringing up a lot of stuff from my childhood um, and my ancestral lineage. So it's been really kind of neat to like see all of it, um, yeah, so clearly being reflected in the world around me. But and like I haven't really been, I've just been focusing on that stuff and spending time with because we have like a lot of family in from out of town and things like that too. So like spending time with family and just being very present. So I haven't really been putting a lot of focus on my business, but also feeling like actually this is a big part of it. Like, is the being present and is the sort of yeah, being with the people that I love and understanding myself more deeply through that reflection. So that's what's been up for me.
Mm. I love that so much. I love that you bridged them. Like you brought the bridge together, right? That this, I heard back to our roots, just even in your share and in my share, right? So when we're in these spaces of being offline and we're really tending to just what's around us, right? Whether that's with family, whether that's being outside in the gardens, whether that's just being with ourselves and taking baths and reading or something. Whatever we're tending to, though, that it's all a part of the process, even if it's not our business, right? So I was like, well, I was fully present in garden mode. And then, like, Monday, I shifted into business mode. But you're so right in that they really do weave together in such a beautiful way. And when I take time to do those things, even if it's not what I expected, not what I had planned, whatever it is, that energy always informs what I do in my business and how I show up. And so it will be fun to go through my reflection, even of May, and see how that colors and just the energy that I'm in now and how those two things color how I'm moving forward in June. And I think I mentioned even last time that I've had in my head that I need to get back to events when I've been having fun playing in the festival realm. And actually even today, I think that day we recorded, I got confirmed into the Steampunk Festival, and that festival invited me into another one of theirs today. And so now I'm doing two of their festivals, and it's funny that that happened. And I'm talking again about how I had in my head that I need to bring my events back, but maybe I'm in this season of just playing in festivals and exploring that realm. And what's also funny is when I was on Instagram, this uh, reel popped up from somebody I don't follow, but it was about Sagittarius energy in June. I'm a Sag. And she was saying how, like, you've planted that seed. Now, like, run with it. Like, it's your time to shine. Run with it. And I planted the festival seed in the fall. And now I'm being invited to festival after festival and I'm looking at filling my calendar out, and I have festival invitations out to like November now. And yeah, it's just again another reminder for me to when I'm in this space of just having fun and enjoying where I'm at, then the stuff just lines up around me, no matter where my head thinks I should be. And the real beauty, the real presence happens when I'm not in that headspace because that's when it fucks with me. That's when it's like, well, but that's great, but you should have this going on or whatever it's saying. And I'm not getting a lot of that noise. And that's really cool. It's a cool space to be in because I also know what it's like to feel that pressure and trying to perform under that pressure. And that's not a fun space to be in. Um, and it's difficult. I'm just thinking right now of anyone who might be listening who feels like they're in that space right now. What would I say to you? And, in that space, it's really difficult to hold a space of trust, an energy of trust that whatever you're focused on is going to come to fruition. But the energy really does compound, so when we move in a direction that we love and we don't see the results from it and we back out of that energy, right? That's when we start to see this roller coaster happen in our lives. But when we just keep moving towards the energy that we love, regardless of what we're seeing around, now that energy compounds and we get rewarded for that. And that's the void, which we've talked about before. Like being in that space, being in the void is not an easy space to be in all the time. But if you can find a way to release that pressure and just be in the spaces that are creating joy for you, that are creating, that feeling of I'm right where I'm supposed to be and I'm trusting, that's when everything around you will light up. I promise.
Oh, the 16 and the 9 are so alive. Like you just basically described the energy of both of them in this really beautiful way. Um, so I know I did the frequency bands for the 16, but I didn't touch on like the human design aspect and then the I Ching translation. And so I'm just going to go through that once again. So we have that. So we have the frequency bands of indifference, versatility, and mastery. And human design is the gate of skills, and it lives in the throat and reaches towards the spleen. And in the I Ching, it translates to enthusiasm. So that was like so present when you were first starting to talk about like, what are you feeling lit up and excited by? Like, where is the enthusiasm for life kind of guiding you to? And also because this throat gate reaches towards the spleen, a lot of times the direction that it's being given is very intuitive, and that intuitive information comes very much from being like present and listening and yeah, tuning in like to where you're really again feeling that like excitement. And then this is like these are things that can be applied to anything. So just like we were talking about with, maybe we're in the garden, but that's still connected to our work. Like it's more about the art of living than it is about like any one thing because it's basically like you can take the skills that you have sort of gained over time and mastered over time, and you can apply them to these various areas of your life in kind of like the same way. And really like see how everything is so interconnected. Um, and then the 9 with the frequency bands of inertia, determination, and invincibility. In human design, it's the gate of focus and it lives in the sacral center and reaches towards the root. And in the I Ching, it translates to the taming power of the small. And so it's so much about what you're talking about then, um, like those small steps. Like, so it's so much about like, the mountain is before us. Like, the thing that we're wanting to move towards, the vision, it's before us. And sometimes we can get like overwhelmed by thinking about like how are we going to get to the top of that mountain? Like how are we going to do that?
Mhm.
And so sometimes that keeps us from like getting started. But this is all about the power of like the first step and then the next step and then the next step and just kind of like focusing on the here and now and what you can do in the little small ways that kind of create this momentum and this groove that like you were just saying when you just keep moving in that direction. Like I know I'm going this way, I'm going to take the little steps that I need to. at my own pace. When you look back, you'll be like, oh my gosh, look how far I've come. Even if in the day to day, the little steps might not feel like, you're getting to, you're not to the top of the mountain yet. But maybe you're to like, you've gotten from the base camp to like one of the camps along the way or something like that. Um, and yeah, I think you just spoke so beautifully to each of them in what you just shared.
Thank you. It brings up for me, I love when you said everything is connected. It brings up for me how it's such an interesting dynamic because something that I experience in a lot of conversations that I'm having with people right now is around having a lot of different interests and not really understanding which path to go on, right? And what's funny about it to me is how I'm always like, you can have everything. And yet we've talked about this on the podcast before, how sometimes I'm like, well, I'm either in the garden or I'm in my business, right? I'm either in one or the other. And, my friend Melissa, you know, years ago she had to keep reminding me it's both and, like it's not either or, it's both and. And it reminds me of this conversation that I was having in one of the masterminds that I'm in. And there was a girl in the mastermind, a woman in the mastermind, who was having difficulty she was just stuck in this space of not moving because she's like, I have these different passions that I want to pursue, and I'm not sure how they relate. Like, I feel like I'm getting money from, let's say, like building websites, right? Like, I think part of her business was building websites. But she's like, I'm really loving, and also she does photography, and then she has her artist work. And she's like, I'm really feeling a pull towards my artist work. But let's say like she's making money in websites right now. I don't know the case, but just as for example purposes. And I said to her, like, what if, because she's talking about her website design. And I said to her, what if you made your website a gallery, an art gallery, and you made like even on one of the pictures on one of the pieces of art could be like just scrolling through website designs that you've done, for example, right? And then another piece of art here is like scrolling through like photography. And then another piece of art is your artwork. Like, what if it gets to be all connected like that? It's funny to me how easy I see that for other people and how much me and myself, I'm like, wow, it's this or that, or, I do that. I don't know what that is in me that wants to do that sometimes, but we've also talked about how, I've realized in my journey how I'm this bridge between logic and intuition. And in human design, I have a big, large split, a wide split in my centers with the head and ajna. And then I have the bottom spleen, root, solar plexus, and heart all connected. And for a long time, I felt two distinct versions of me. And I think I still do at times. I still feel this, strategic part of me and this intuitive, emotional part of me. And I was talking to a friend recently about this because she was talking about having these different parts of her. And like she wants like the fun loving part of her to be, with the serious part of her, for example. Right. And so we have these multiple parts of ourselves. And what I said to her, what I reflected to her was, number one, I want to work on this too. But number two, I, I find that when I'm in session, when I'm with when I'm in my service, when I am here delivering the work that I am meant to be in with someone else and seeing them, reflecting back to them, letting them be in the projection field, like reading intuitively for them, incorporating human design. Like when I'm doing all of these things, that's when it's effortless for me. I can be both, I can be everything. When I come out of those sessions and I'm just in Kristen life, that's when I'm like, oh, like, am I cleaning today or am I in business mode today? Am I going to take a walk and be out in nature and take a bath and just be connected with all the elements? Or, am I like serious? I got to get things done today. It's so interesting to me how I hold both of those dynamics. And it's so easy for me to say to someone else, it gets to all be connected, like you said. So it's something that I'm building more and more awareness of, and I can see it more clearly now. But I think there's a part of me still waiting to like, I want to be session Kristen all the time and not be in this like, well, what version of me is showing up today? That's not fun. And speaking of fun, I can be really fun and goofy, especially when I'm out in nature and I find I'm like a little kid in a candy store when I find cool rocks and stuff and out in nature. But then, I'm business Kristen, which is super serious and not not fun all the time. Um, so yeah, like I'd love to be able to incorporate all of that. And I am working on that. I feel like more and more of my expression is weaving together, but man, it's a process.
It sure is. Like everything you're speaking to, I'm like, this is just deeply resonant. I think as a manifesting generator, like this has been like a life theme sort of. And again, because this nine lives at the bottom of my chart and was very much like a big part of the experience of like my upbringing and my home life and like family. Um, and it's very much, like a lot of times it got labeled as like ADHD or like this feeling of like being scattered or all over the place and like having, you know, too many things going on. Why don't you ever finish something? Why, there's this pressure around like, again, getting to a specific place and having to stay on like a specific path. But again, if we're like, this is just coming to me as we're talking, but if we're thinking about like a mountain, like at the bottom, there's so many different ways that you could start to go up, and you could even like go over this way and then go over that way. Like you're still going to the top. And that's one of the things that I've like had to decondition in my human design journey has been like not feeling like I need to be on this linear path, and really trusting that, again, when we have this nine, there is a real determination to it. There is this real, like, get stuff done to it, but it lives in the sacral. So it's like asking us where you're going to have the energy to, like, move in that direction is where is exciting you, where is lighting you up. And maybe that's more the through line than anything else, right? And so it's tying all the things together because you're following that joy and you're following that. Like I've found that when I follow that, like when I kind of surrender to just like following what excites me, lights me up, brings me joy, that like the other stuff kind of falls into place. So I wouldn't have even had to have a plan of how what I need to do to get here, to get there, to do this, to do that, like to check things off the list. It's more like actually like when I'm serious about my joy, when I'm serious about my excitement, that's when things really start to like just it's almost like you're you're taking the leap, you're following it, you're trusting in it. And then there are other forces that kind of come in to to support you in that, to kind of like clear the path even more before you. Um, but yeah, I'm seeing more and more on my journey and in my experience how it all does tie together and how it's all like it's so interconnected that it's like kind of wild like to the mind to even conceive when we do start to see those like paths converge, I guess.
Mm.
Um yeah, and I was even thinking when you were talking about being in the garden, like so many times when I am like doing something like that where I'm immersed in with like a connection with the land or even just doing like so these keys are really connected to repetition too. So like anything where there's like a repetitive movement um that like stuff drops in or like there's this realization or something for my business emerges like an idea to do something or an offering or something like that. So yeah, I guess I'm just really in awe of how everything does come together. And again, what I've been thinking about lately is like the art of living, like making my life my work, like that being the art and service that I share with the world.
Mm. As you were talking about the mountain and how there's so many paths to get to the top, I heard intuitively the paths are interconnected, and you like came all the way around to that, towards the end when you're talking about that convergence and how amazing it really is that they're all connected. And what I was thinking about was that there's no, I feel like there's an illusion of starting over there, right? It's like, oh, if I get on a different path, or if I don't finish the path that I was on, then I'm starting over. But that new path, then, like, or that pathway that converged into or merged into another path, and you're still like climbing to your life's work at the peak, that path offers a new perspective. It offers different resources, like you were talking about. And it's not starting over. And I feel like this is where we and whoever, like, we get in this space of I can't go over there because everything I just did then would mean nothing. And it's not true, because everything you just did contributes to that next step. It is a continuation. It is not a new beginning. It is not a new start. It's not a starting over. In fact, like, maybe that's a grand fucking illusion in life. Like, do we ever really start over? Can you do that? Can you really erase your entire being and just start over? No. And maybe this is something we just say to ourselves because, it makes us feel better about the energy that we're putting into like a new beginning, right? And even with, I host new moon ceremonies, and this is something I talk about and moving into, sitting at this threshold of what is the intention you're going to set and moving forward in this new phase. But it's never a starting over. So that's interesting. I've never really thought about that. Even when I got out of corporate and I started my business, right? And I refer to corporate Kristen, but corporate Kristen informs so much of what I understand and the perspective and the bridging that I'm able to do as I meet and converge with other people. So it's really it's really fascinating, especially when things show up in our lives that feel like they have nothing to do with the other. And then you make a connection with someone seemingly out of, like, I wasn't expecting this to come out of this space, but now, like, I made a connection here. And I think going back to our last, I don't know if it was our last episode where I was talking a little bit about like self-leadership, like that's when it hits, right? Like when you're in a space and it lights up a part of you that maybe you weren't expecting. That's the interconnectedness. That's just proof that it's all just evolving. And we can't stop that. We can't stop the train from moving. So why do we sit there and wait, I'll get the next train. I'll get the next one. But guess what? It's a different fucking train then. It's not the same. You can't just start on that train again in your own timing. It's a different train. So every time we resist moving, every time we want to, like I'll wait. I'm not fully prepared yet. Whatever it is that we're holding ourselves back from, the version that sparked that idea to begin with is no longer there. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that we can't stop the world from moving. We can't just stop the earth on its axis of spinning and say, oh, I'm just going to pause time for a moment here while I figure my shit out. And then we can start the spinning again. And then I'll get on the train because I'm ready now. You know, we we have to be moving. And I say we, and I mean me too. We have to be moving from this, I'm getting on and I can handle whatever stops come my way. Stops being the train analogy. I don't know why this podcast makes me think of analogies, but
I love it. Yeah, and I absolutely love what you touch on here. Um, it's bringing up a lot of different things for me, so I'm trying to see where I want to go with it, what train I'm hopping on. Um, uh, I think what's coming up right now is I'm thinking about, okay, so I said the nine lives in the sacral, it reaches towards the root. And it's so interesting because, here in the nine, we have the shadow of inertia. So it is again this like overwhelm, this feeling like we're not ready, it's like we feel stuck, we don't want to move. And I think on the other side of it too, sometimes it can be like the fear of like inertia. So like we're moving so much that like we don't like slow down to just like listen to where we're wanting to go. So like I feel like on one end it's like yeah, there's some connection maybe to like this like overstimulation maybe. Um or like even kind of this connects with what you were sharing about earlier when we feel like there's so many different things pulling us in different directions and like where do we go? What do we do? But the gate that it connects with is the 52, and we'll be exploring this in a bit when we move into Cancer season. But it's interesting because that energy is about like so the shadow's stress, the gift is restraint. So it's about like knowing like again, it lives in the root center. So it's about knowing how to allow those sort of pressure to move up in you and kind of like, um, almost like kind of charge your battery in a way or like build up so that when you are ready, like when you feel that enthusiasm. So it's like waiting for, again, the joy, the excitement, like not just jumping on the train to jump on a train, or like feel like you're doing something, but it's like waiting for that energy to kind of spark something and tell you like now's go time. Like we've built the energy up. And so I think this also kind of moves through with that thread around like being very present in the other areas of life too, like um in the garden with the land on a day where we want to watch shows and stuff like that, like allowing there to be these like pauses and these slowing downs that then kind of give you that perspective of like, uh, yeah, when you're ready to jump on that train, like knowing, okay, it's go time, like I'm ready for this one. Um, it just kind of came up when you were talking. And it's interesting to me because I love like the seemingly like paradoxical things. You were kind of touching on this earlier too, like the way that we can kind of like, the nine, it does want to move, it wants to be in movement. It wants to be in this like creating this groove, these small steps. Um, but also there's this energy there that's like, but move slowly, I guess, is the thing. Like, don't get so caught up in like, I have to get to the top. I have to get there, that you are just trying to get to the top and missing everything along the way. Like, take the slow train, I guess is what's coming through with this. The slow
Mm.
train, the scenic train, you know? Like, for this journey, we don't have to get somewhere. We don't have to be on the bullet train. We don't have to get there in an hour or anything like that, For this, like, lifetime journey, we can we can take the scenic route and stop along the way. Maybe then too we're like, "Hey, this little town looks super cool. I'm going to get off this train. I'm going to hang out here for a while and then I'm going to get back on and see where it takes me next." Yeah. I'm really loving this train.
I love it too, these epic train stories that we're coming up with. You know, one of the books that I read in corporate that really it changed a lot for me and it changed my life in the moment was Strengths Finders. I think it's Tom Rath as the author. And if you know anything about me, you know that I've probably taken every personality test under the sun, and human design just happens to be the one that like I think I stopped taking personality tests because I was like, this is it. Like this one just really resonates with me. But anyways, Strengths Finder, you take a test and it evaluates like your top strengths and it gives you your top five, or if you get the whole report, it'll rank all of them. But the whole premise behind the book is that any strength overused can become a weakness. And also, the other big piece of it is that, in building teams, you really want to have diversified strengths, right? And at the time, corporate Kristen, little naive corporate Kristen, thought that if I built a team of Kristens, we would just be unstoppable because I was unstoppable in corporate. I was very much a go-getter, and achiever was my one of my top strengths. And so just to give that example, like as an achiever, it's beautiful because you get a lot of things done, you achieve a lot. And the shadow of that is that no achievement is enough, right? So I was chasing achievements, right? And that's what this reminds me of, like this the opposite that you're speaking to it. Maybe it's less about not moving and it's more about moving too much. And the other thing that it reminds me of is just the sacral in general. And, the biggest, one of the biggest things with the sacral center in human design is about burnout and not being able to really recognize that because you're so focused on that end result, right? You just need to get there, no matter what it takes. And most of the time, what I'm feeling right now is like I'd love to do a little survey on this to see like for all the times in your life that you became so focused that no one could disturb you in chasing that thing. When you got that thing, was it enough for you? Was it really your life's work? Was it really the end? Because I bet you a lot of people are going to say no. So then why do we give up the scenic route, thinking it's going to take us off track, thinking it's not going to get us where we want to go? But maybe there's something we need to see there that will color our next step, And when I traveled from December 2020 to January 2025 with my kitty cat, who's now 21. Um, when I traveled with her, I challenged myself to be in this space of surrender, of not knowing, of not having the path mapped out. And every time I tried to, because I would go stay in a place for a month and then move on to another space, every time I tried to like, oh, I want to get to up into Vancouver, and every time I would start to move in that direction, right? I moved from at the time I was in Arizona, and I kind of decided I'm going to go to the Pacific Northwest, and I went to Utah, and Utah I started like seeing and experiencing some of the forest fire smoke at the time, and it wasn't bad enough. Like it was bad on some days. The air quality was really bad, and you couldn't go out. Um, but then I went to California. I went to Northern California, and most days the smoke was so bad you couldn't go outside. It wasn't safe for us to breathe. And I always wondered about the animals, because I was staying on a farm there. And I was thinking to myself, like, how do the animals survive all this smoke? But I'm not going to go down that tangent. But anyways, then I was still trying to go. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Oregon next. And as I'm looking at like Airbnbs up in like Oregon, my intuition said go back to Arizona for 6 months. I don't remember if it was 3 months or 6 months, but I ended up going back to Arizona and staying in this gorgeous um, home in Fountain Hills, Arizona, which is a phenomenal space. They have like I don't remember what it's called, like a dark night policy, right? Where everyone's lights are off after a certain time. And so then you really can see the sky. It just really, really, really incredible space. I did a lot of healing there. I ended up staying there for 5 months. Um, but it was just such a reminder that I wasn't there to control the journey. No matter where I thought I was going, I kept, I had these things that were very real I'm coming up against and saying, no, you're not going in this direction. Um, and I still fought it to some degree. Yeah.
Travel, I think, is where I really yeah, like we're really invited into a surrendering of control with travel. And it like connects to, so at least for me, again, it's just like such a, for me, it's a spiritual experience. And there's so much there that like I remember and unfolds and this deepening of surrender and just, again, each place is activating a part of myself that is has been there but I've forgotten about, or it's amazing. But it is like this, I just think it can be applied to anything. Again, there's this versatility with it, because it has these lessons. And yeah, like when you were saying like why do we resist the scenic route in like travel sometimes, but in life in general too. And it really actually like brought tears to my eyes and like just this wave of chills through my body because, I'm thinking, obviously, I just was at a memorial service, like, and I'm just thinking too about the things that I've seen, people at the end of life, like the things that, meant the most to them or the things that they wish they would have done more of. And it's never like, I wish I would have achieved more, it's like, I wish I would have, spent more time with the people that I love, doing the things I love. Like I see the little love, you have like a little love piece in behind you. And I'm just like, actually, I think it all just comes back to love too. Like this, like, all encompassing, infinite loving presence, like opening of the heart, to life and to the world around us. And like that's, I think, what really, if I sit with any of the keys, I come back to. But especially in our conversation today, like the top of the mountain, I think, is the remembrance of our love. It's again not any one sort of achievement or final arrival or something like that. It's more just this thing that's already who we are. And it's more about taking the time along the way to like revel in that and enjoy that and just be with it.
Mhm. Mhm. A true life's work. Like, what is our masterpiece is built with so much depth and dimension and perspective. And it's not a single piece, right? It's like a collage of all the moments. And like you said, maybe that thread that goes through all of it is love, is that return. Something that I've thought about a lot and wanting to incorporate into my life is that concept of romanticizing my life, and just like seeing little light reflections or rainbows, like random rainbows I'll find in the house, just the way that the light is shining through the window, taking pictures of, this beautiful pale yellow peace lily that I've never seen that bloomed today. That was something that we found while planting another plant last year. Like, oh, there's a lily here. Let me pull it out and nurture it. And it didn't really do anything last year, but this year it's this gorgeous pale yellow peace lily. Um, yeah, it's little moments like that, which I love. I really do love those moments. So, Cori, is there anything else you would love to say before we wrap this up?
I feel pretty complete. Yeah, this has really opened up my heart. And yeah, this might be one of my favorite episodes so far.
Mm. Are we gonna, was one of us gonna say that on every episode?
Yeah. Just keeps getting better and better. And
Yeah.
that's how I feel about life too. It just keeps getting better and better. And like you were saying, the small moments, like I've really been feeling that. I feel it each time I go to Italy, and I think that's one of the things that I love about it is this like savoring of life, maybe is the word. Um, and so I'm gonna be leaning more into that
Mm,
this week. And I'm excited because the next time we meet, we're gonna be doing um the sun in 35 and the earth in 5. So it'll be your half birthday and your two of your prime gifts. So yeah, I just wanted to get us
fun.
ready for that.
Yeah. Don't miss that one, guys. All right. So, if you are here listening, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with us. And as always, we would love to hear from you and how you're experiencing these energies or what train you want to add to our little storyline. Yeah, we want to hear from you. So it it helps to meld all the perspectives in the pot and see. So, if you found this episode curiosity sparking or enlightening in some way, we would love for you to share it with someone who you feel would enjoy the conversation. And other than that, we'll see you in, I think, just a few days. So, until next time.